The human female had not moved in 6 rotations. Commander Thakmor clicked his mandibles in what passed for amusement among the hegemony forces. Through the reinforced viewing panel of Detention Block 7, he watched the pathetic creature sit motionless on her metal bench. Her dark hair hung like dead vegetation around her shoulders. Her hands rested on her knees. Her breathing came slow and measured. "Broken," announced Sub-Commander Grixtial from behind him. Just like the others, these humans crack so easily under proper psychological pressure. Valskomur's 3 eyes swiveled to examine his subordinate. Grix Tal has subordinate. Grixtal was young for a hegemony officer, his carapace still showing the green tints of recent molting. The fool probably thought this assignment to the Outer Rim was some grand adventure. He would learn. Perhaps. Thakmor rumbled through his vocal slits. Though I find it curious, her bio readings show none of the typical stress indicators we see in defeated prisoners. Then she is simply empty-minded, Rex Tiller replied with a dismissive wave of his primary appendage. These mammals have such primitive neural structures, likely she has retreated into some form of mental hibernation to escape reality. The human's name was Captain Torres. According to the data files recovered from her destroyed vessel, she commanded a small frigate in the Terran Defense Fleet before the hegemony's advanced scouts had torn it apart like tissue paper. Her crew of 37 had died screaming. She alone survived the boarding action, though calling it survival was generous when she would soon be processed for information extraction. Yet something about her stillness nagged at Thakmor's tactical mind. He had been conducting interrogations for 40 cycles. Corsairs say he had broken warriors from a dozen species. The Zenthari would rage and throw themselves against their cell walls until exhaustion claimed them. The Korvan would weep and beg and offer strategic secrets in exchange for mercy. The Axelrod would simply shut down entirely, catatonic with despair. But this human? She just sat there watching, waiting. "Have you reviewed the combat recordings from her ship?" Thakmor asked. Grixtal's mandibles twitched with annoyance. "Of course, Commander. Standard human tactics. Crude, direct, ultimately futile. Her vessel managed to destroy 2 of our fighters before being disabled. Nothing remarkable." "Show me." The younger officer activated the holographic display with obvious reluctance. The recording materialized between them, showing the final moments of the human frigate Defiant Dawn. The ship hung wounded in space, its hull breached in 17 places, life support failing. Hegemony boarding pods had already attached to the airlock, but Thakmor focused on the bridge camera feed. There was Captain Torres, blood streaming from a head wound, her uniform torn, her crew dying around her. She should have been terrified, desperate, broke. Instead, she was calm, calculating. Her fingers moved across her command console with surgical precision even as enemy soldiers cut through her blast doors. "Pause it there," Thakmor commanded. The image froze. Torres had her hand hovering over what appeared to be the ship's communication array. Her face wore an expression of grim satisfaction that made Thakmor's chitin prickle with unease. "What was she transmitting?" he asked. "Nothing of consequence. A standard distress beacon. Her location, ship status, crew casualties." The transmission was intercepted and jammed within moments. "You are certain?" "Of course I am certain." Grixtal's carapace flushed deeper green with indignation. "Do you think me incompetent?" Thakmor did not answer immediately. He studied the frozen image of the human captain. Her dark eyes held secrets. He was sure of it. There was something in her expression that spoke of hidden knowledge, of plans within plans. But perhaps he was simply growing paranoid in his old age. The hegemony had conquered 47 star systems in the past 3 cycles. Every species they encountered followed predictable patterns of resistance and collapse. Why would these humans be any different? "Resume standard interrogation protocols," he decided. "Begin with the neural probe." "Excellent," Grixtal said, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. "Shall I bring her to the extraction chamber now?" "Not yet. Observe her for another rotation. Document any changes in behavior or physiology. I want a complete psychological profile before we begin invasive procedures." The younger officer's enthusiasm dimmed. "Commander, with respect, what more is there to observe? She is a defeated enemy. Broken goods. We are wasting valuable time that could be spent extracting intelligence about human fleet movements." Thigmore's three eyes fixed on Grixtal with the weight of 4 decades of military experience. "Submartyr, in my years of service, I have learned that the most dangerous enemies are often those who appear the most harmless. This human's composure troubles me." "Composure?" Riskiel scoffed. "She has not spoken a word since capture. She barely acknowledges our existence. If anything, she seems to have retreated into some primitive meditation state." That was precisely what worried Thigmore, though he did not voice this concern. In his experience, prey animals that stopped running were usually preparing to bite. The comm system chimed with an incoming priority message. Thigmore activated the receiver, and Fleet Admiral Zoc Ren's imposing form materialized in miniature above the holopad. "Commander Thigmore, I trust your interrogation proceeds satisfactorily." "Yes, Admiral, though we have encountered some unusual behavior patterns from the human prisoner." "Unusual how?" Thigmore chose his words carefully. Zoc Ren had little patience for what he considered paranoid speculation. "She displays remarkable emotional control for a defeated combatant. I believe additional observation time would be prudent before beginning extraction procedures." The Admiral's massive head tilted, causing his ceremonial battle scars to catch the light. "Commander, we are not conducting a scientific study. We need information about human military capabilities and fleet positions. Extract what you can from this creature and dispose of the remains. The invasion fleet requires current intelligence to proceed with the next phase." "Of course, Admiral. However, no delays. Thigmore, you have 12 hours to break this human and compile a full intelligence report. The main fleet moves toward the solar system in 14 hours regardless of your progress." The transmission ended, leaving Thigmore alone with his concerns and his increasingly smug subordinate. "Well," Grixtal said, "it appears the Admiral agrees with my assessment. Shall I prepare the neural extraction equipment?" Thigmore stared through the viewing panel at the motionless human. Captain Torres had not shifted position even slightly during their conversation. Her chest rose and fell with mechanical regularity. Her hands remained perfectly still on her knees. Her dark eyes continued to stare at the far wall of her cell as if she could see through the metal to something beyond. "Very well," Thigmore conceded. "But maintain full security protocols. Triple the guard rotation. I want sensors monitoring every aspect of her physiology." "Commander, surely such precautions are excessive for a single unarmed prisoner." "Perhaps, but humor an old soldier's instincts." As Grixtal departed to make preparations, Thigmore remained at the observation post. Something about this entire situation felt wrong. The human fleet had offered surprisingly little resistance during the initial assault on their outer colonies. Their ships fought bravely but used conventional tactics that the hegemony had encountered from dozens of other species. Their technology was adequate but unremarkable. Their soldiers died with typical mammalian emotionalism. So why did this one captain unnerve him so thoroughly? He reviewed the combat footage again, this time focusing on details he had missed before. The way Torres moved during the battle suggested extensive combat experience. Her crew responded to her orders with the crisp efficiency of veteran soldiers. When the boarding action began, she made no attempt to destroy sensitive equipment or initiate self-destruct protocols as most commanders would. Instead, she simply waited. Thigmore's tactical mind began to construct uncomfortable possibilities. What if her capture was intentional? What if the distress signal contained more than standard emergency information? What if her apparent defeat was actually part of some larger strategy? But no, he was allowing paranoia to cloud his judgment. Humans were no different from any other species the hegemony had conquered. They bled, they broke, they begged for mercy when faced with superior force. This Torres woman was simply exhibiting an unusual form of psychological shock, nothing more. The security monitor chimed softly. Thigmore activated the feed and found himself looking at the corridor outside the detention block. 3 heavily armed guards stood at their posts, weapons ready, scanning for any sign of threat. The hallway stretched empty in both directions. lit by the harsh blue glow of security illumination. Everything appeared normal, routine, safe. So why did every instinct he possessed whisper warnings of approaching danger? Konsma checked the chronometer. 7 hours until the neural extraction would begin. 7 hours to solve the mystery of the human captain's unnatural calm. 7 hours before he would either vindicate his concerns or prove himself a foolish old soldier jumping at shadows. He settled in to watch and wait. After all, patience was a virtue he had learned through decades of military service. Though he suspected the human in the cell below knew far more about patience than he did. The COMAC system activated again, this time carrying a routine status report from the fleet's sensor array. Thakimor half listened to the technical data about gravitational anomalies and stellar drift until one detail caught his attention. "Repeat that last section," he commanded. "Sir, long-range sensors have detected several minor gravitational disturbances at the edge of the system, likely debris from destroyed human vessels, though the readings are somewhat irregular." Irregular how, Thakmor wondered. But before he could ask for clarification, the transmission ended, leaving him alone with his thoughts and his growing unease. He looked down at Captain Torres one more time. She had not moved. She had not spoken. She had not even acknowledged the presence of her captors. But something in her stillness suggested she was waiting for something specific, something that might already be on its way. Thakmor activated his personal comm device and began composing additional security orders. Call it paranoia or call it prudence, but he intended to be ready for whatever the humans might attempt. Though he suspected it would not be enough, the chronometer continued its relentless countdown toward the neural extraction. 6 hours and 43 minutes remaining, time enough for many things to happen. Time enough for patience to transform into something far more dangerous. In her cell, Captain Maya Torres continued to sit in perfect stillness, her dark eyes fixed on the wall, her breathing slow and controlled. Waiting. Just waiting. And in the depths of space beyond the sensor grid, gravitational anomalies that might not be debris at all continued their slow approach toward the hegemony fleet. The pieces were moving into position. The trap was nearly ready. And soon, very soon, the aliens would learn why humans valued patience above all other virtues when preparing for war. The hunt was about to begin. The neural extraction chamber hummed with lethal efficiency. Commander Thakmor watched the technicians calibrate their instruments with growing unease. The device resembled a metallic spider, its 8 probe-tipped legs designed to pierce the skull and extract memories directly from living brain tissue. Most species survived the process. Some even retained basic motor functions afterward. "Preliminary scans complete," announced Chief Technician Vortkas, her scaled hands dancing across the control interface. "The human's neural pathways are surprisingly complex, but well within extraction parameters." "And her current state?" Thakmor inquired. "Identical to when we began monitoring. Heart rate steady at 62 beats per minute. Breathing regular. Minimal electrical brain activity suggests deep meditation or trance state. She will offer no resistance." Through the reinforced viewing port, Thakmor observed Captain Torres being escorted into the chamber by 6 armed guards. She moved with the same fluid grace she had displayed throughout her captivity. No fear, no panic, no desperate escape attempt, just that maddening, unnatural calm. "Perhaps the creature has accepted its fate," suggested Grix Teal from beside him. "These mammals sometimes exhibit fatalistic behavior when faced with inevitable death." Thakmor's mandibles clicked irritably. "Nothing about this human suggests fatalism, Subcommander. Observe her posture, her breathing, her eye movements. She remains alert and purposeful." "Purposeful how?" "She is restrained, unarmed, and surrounded by armed guards in the most secure facility in the fleet. What possible purpose could she serve?" Before Thakmor could respond, his personal communicator buzzed with an urgent message. The transmission originated from the fleet's sensor array marked with high-priority encryption codes. "Commander," came the voice of sensor operator Crixnome, "we have updated readings on those gravitational anomalies. The disturbances are moving in formation and appear to be decelerating toward our position." Thakmor's 3 eyes narrowed. "Formation suggests artificial origin. How many objects?" "Difficult to determine precisely. The readings are unusual. We estimate between 12 and 15 discrete sources, but they seem to be employing some form of sensor dampening technology. Size classification? Unknown? The gravitational signatures suggest vessels of significant mass, but we cannot penetrate their stealth systems for detailed scans. Rix Tal scoffed. Impossible. Human technology is primitive. They lack the capability for advanced stealth systems. But Thakmor felt ice forming in his digestive chambers. He had spent years studying intelligence reports on human military capabilities. Their technology was indeed inferior to hegemony standards, but they possessed one trait that made them uniquely dangerous among known species. They adapted. Increase fleet alert status to Condition 2, he ordered. Deploy forward reconnaissance units to investigate these anomalies, and double the guard rotation around the extraction chamber. Commander, protested Grixtil, surely you do not believe this human prisoner is somehow connected to sensor ghosts at the edge of the system? Thakmor did not answer. Instead, he activated the internal communication system. All units, this is Commander Thakmor. Effective immediately, implement Protocol 7 security measures. Any personnel displaying unusual behavior or deviating from assigned duties will be detained for interrogation. In the extraction chamber below, Captain Torres was being secured to the procedure table. Metal restraints locked around her wrists and ankles. Neural interface cables snaked toward her skull. The probe array descended with mechanical precision, yet she continued to stare at the ceiling with that same infuriating composure. Beginning preliminary neural mapping, announced Vorthkes. Initial probe insertion in 30 seconds. Thakmor found himself holding his breath. Something was wrong. Everything was wrong. But he could not identify the specific threat, could not quantify the danger his instincts insisted was approaching. Sir, called sensor operator Krixinam over the communicator, the gravitational anomalies have changed course. They are now on direct intercept trajectory with our fleet position. Time to contact? Approximately 4 hours at current velocity. 4 hours. Exactly when the neural extraction would be complete. The timing could not be coincidental. Grixtal, recall all patrol vessels immediately, form defensive perimeter around the command ship, and prepare the fleet for possible combat action. The younger officer's carapace flushed with alarm. Combat action? Against what? We have detected no hostile vessels, no weapon signatures, we have detected 15 unidentified objects, moving in formation toward our position immediately after capturing a human prisoner. Thakmor snarled, if you cannot recognize the tactical implications, perhaps you should return to the military academy for additional education. Below in the extraction chamber, the first neural probe made contact with Captain Torres's skull. Most subjects would scream at this point. The pain was reportedly excruciating, like molten metal being poured directly into the brain. Torres did not even flinch. Probe insertion successful, reported Vorthkes. Beginning memory extraction sequence. Initial data streams appear normal for human neural architecture. Thakmor leaned closer to the viewing port. What is she thinking about? Sir? Her current mental activity. What thoughts are you detecting? The technician consulted her readouts with obvious confusion. This is unusual. She appears to be running mathematical calculations, complex orbital mechanics and gravitational field equations. Extremely sophisticated for a primitive species. Mathematics, orbital mechanics, gravitational fields. The pieces clicked together in Thakmor's mind with terrifying clarity. Abort the extraction, he commanded. Remove the prisoner from the chamber immediately. Commander, Vorthkes looked up in surprise. We have barely begun the procedure. It will take several more hours. Abort it now, Thakmor roared. This entire scenario is a trap. But even as he spoke, Captain Torres turned her head slowly toward the viewing port. For the first time since her capture, she made direct eye contact with her captors. Her lips curved into a smile that made Thakmor's chatin crawl with dread. Then she spoke for the first time in 6 rotations. Her voice carried clearly through the chamber's audio pickups, calm and measured and absolutely terrifying in its confidence. Hello, Commander Thakmor. Thank you for waiting precisely as long as we needed you to. The extraction chamber's lights flickered. Emergency alarms began wailing throughout the ship. The gravitational anomalies at the edge of the system suddenly blazed with electromagnetic signatures as 15 human warships dropped their stealth fields simultaneously. Impossible, breathed Grixtail. Humans do not possess stealth technology. Torres laughed, a sound like breaking glass. We do now. Funny how quickly you can reverse engineer captured alien equipment when you really put your mind to it. The largest of the human vessels was easily 3 times the size of a hegemony dreadnought. Its hull bristled with weapon systems that should not have existed in human technology. Behind it came a battle group of cruisers and destroyers, their formations tight and professional. You see, Torres continued, her voice carrying the casual tone of a tactical instructor. We knew you would capture me. We wanted you to capture me. My ship was specifically designed to be destroyed in a convincing manner while ensuring my survival. Tekmore's mind raced through the implications. The distress signal. What did you actually transmit? Gravitational resonance frequencies for every ship in your fleet. Detailed tactical analysis of your defensive formations, precise timing coordinates for the ambush. Oh, and the unlock codes for your own security systems. The neural extraction equipment sparked and died. Throughout the command ship, blast doors began cycling open and closed in random patterns. Life support systems fluctuated wildly. The main reactor's containment field developed dangerous instabilities. Impossible, Thakmore repeated, though his conviction was crumbling. Our security systems are quantum encrypted. No alien species has ever managed to penetrate them. Torres sat up on the extraction table, casually brushing aside the restraints that should have required industrial tools to remove. That's because no alien species ever spent 3 years deliberately losing battles to capture your equipment, reverse engineer your technology, and study your tactical patterns. The truth hit Thakmore like a physical blow. The entire war, your defeats, your loss, strategic retreats, controlled sacrifices, bait. Torres stepped down from the table and walked toward the viewing port, ignoring the 6 guards who had their weapons trained on her. Every ship you destroyed, every colony you conquered, every prisoner you took was feeding information back to Earth Command. We have been studying you, Commander, learning from you, adapting to you. One of the guards fired his weapon at point-blank range. The energy bolt passed harmlessly through empty space as Torres moved with inhuman speed, crossing the chamber in a blur of motion. Before the guard could fire again, she had relieved him of his weapon and reduced him to unconsciousness with surgical precision. The remaining guards opened fire simultaneously. Torres flowed between the energy beams like liquid shadow, her captured weapon replying with deadly accuracy. In less than 10 seconds, all 6 guards lay motionless on the chamber floor. How? Grixtal whispered. Torvas looked up at the viewing port and smiled again. Combat enhancement implants. Another gift from your technology. Though we did make some improvements to the basic design, the human fleet was now in effective weapons range. The first volley of missiles streaked across the void, each warhead equipped with hegemony-derived targeting systems and carrying explosive yields that exceeded standard human capabilities by several orders of magnitude. Fleet Admiral Zoc Ren's voice crackled over the emergency communications system. All ships, battle stations, return fire immediately. How did they get so close without detection? Thakmore activated his communicator with trembling appendages. Admiral, recommend immediate fleet withdrawal. This is not a standard human attack force. They have been planning this engagement for years. Nonsense. No human force could threaten the hegemony fleet. Order your security teams to contain that prisoner and prepare. The transmission cut off as the first human missiles found their targets. 3 hegemony destroyers simply vanished, consumed by explosions that briefly outshone the local star. The remaining ships of the fleet scrambled to respond, but their formations were already compromised by the precise intelligence Torres had provided. You studied us for 40 cycles, Tar said conversationally as she examined the captured weapon. Very thorough, very methodical, but you made one critical error in your analysis. What error? Thakmore asked, though he was no longer certain he wanted to know the answer. You assumed human patience was a weakness, a sign of mental fragility or primitive evolution. Torres looked directly at him through the reinforced viewing port. But patience is not weakness, Commander. Patience is preparation. Patience is planning. Patience is the ability to endure years of apparent defeat in service of ultimate victory. The command ship shuddered as human weapons found their mark. Damage reports flooded the communication channels. The hegemony fleet, caught completely off guard and out of position, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had underestimated for 3 years. The neural extraction, Thakmor realized. You wanted us to probe your mind. Of course. How else could we upload a virus directly into your computer systems? The extraction equipment creates a perfect two-way neural interface. We simply had to wait for you to make the connection yourself. Across the fleet, hegemony vessels began experiencing cascading system failures. Navigation computers crashed, weapons systems refused to respond, life support cycled randomly between toxic and breathable atmospheric composition. The virus Torres had carried in her enhanced neural implants was spreading through every networked system in the alien fleet. Brilliant, Thakmor admitted with grudging respect. Absolutely brilliant. You sacrificed thousands of your own people to make this trap believable. Torres's expression hardened. Every person who died in this war died to protect Earth and the colonies. Their sacrifice will not be forgotten. But yes, we paid a terrible price for this victory. The largest human vessel was now close enough that Thakmor could read the name inscribed on its hull in both human script and mockingly, hegemony text. UES Patience. The ship's main weapons were charging for what appeared to be a killing blow. Admiral Zakran is attempting to signal surrender, reported a technician. Torres shook her head. Too late for that. You invaded our space. You conquered our colonies. You murdered our people. Did you really think we would simply accept defeat and beg for mercy? What do you want? Thakmor asked. What we have always wanted. For you to leave human space and never return. Torres pressed her hand against what appeared to be a blank section of the chamber wall. Hidden panels slid aside, revealing additional equipment that had somehow been installed without detection. Of course. After today, I suspect that will not be a problem. The UES Patience fired its main weapons. The energy beam that lanced across space was unlike anything in the hegemony arsenal. It struck the command ship's shields and simply passed through them as if they did not exist. Secondary explosions began rippling through the hull as critical systems overloaded. Impossible, Grixtal repeated for the 4th time. Human weapons cannot penetrate our defensive systems. Torres was now assembling what appeared to be a personal teleportation device from the concealed equipment. They can when we have spent 3 years analyzing the exact frequency modulations of your shield generators. Amazing what you can accomplish when you have detailed technical specifications and unlimited motivation. Thakmor understood that he was witnessing the end of the hegemony expansion into human space. Possibly the end of the hegemony itself if these humans decided to pursue their advantage. How many ships do you have? How large is your actual fleet? Large enough, Torres replied. The teleportation device was nearly complete, its alien components clearly derived from captured hegemony technology. Though I suspect you will never have the opportunity to find out. The command ship was dying around them. Life support was failing. Artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red illumination as the main power grid collapsed. You could have simply avoided our space, Torvac said as she activated the teleportation device. You could have left us alone. Instead, you chose to invade, to conquer, to enslave. Now you face the consequences of that choice. The last thing Thakmor saw before the teleportation beam claimed Captain Torres was her smile, not the expression of a defeated prisoner, but the satisfaction of a predator whose trap had finally closed around its prey. The human fleet continued its methodical destruction of the hegemony forces. Ship after ship vanished in brilliant flashes of light, their wreckage joining the debris field that would serve as a monument to alien arrogance and human patience. In the depths of space, the UES Patience and her escorts began the journey home. Their mission complete. Behind them, the survivors of the hegemony fleet limped toward the edge of the system, carrying news that would terrify the alien government. Humanity was no longer prey. The hunters had become the hunted, and the humans were very, very patient when it came to planning their next move. 3 cycles later, Commander Thakmor stood before the Hegemony High Council, his carapace still bearing scorch marks from the escape pod that had barely saved his life. Supreme Chancellor Vecthrone loomed above the assembly floor, his massive form casting shadows across the circular chamber. Around him sat the 12 most powerful beings in known space, their various species united under hegemony rule for over 2 centuries. Today, that unity showed. Explain to me. The Chancellor rumbled through his vocal apparatus how a primitive species with inferior technology managed to destroy an entire battle fleet. Thakmor's mandibles clicked nervously. He had rehearsed this report dozens of times during the journey home, but standing before the council made every word feel inadequate. The humans employed a long-term deception strategy spanning 3 years. They deliberately allowed us to capture their vessels and personnel while secretly reverse-engineering our technology. Impossible, declared Counselor Hex Prime, her crystalline features flashing with skeptical light. Our quantum encryption protocols are mathematically unbreakable. No species has ever penetrated them. With respect, Counselor, the humans did not break our encryption. They simply waited for us to voluntarily connect their neural interface to our computer systems during interrogation. The silence that followed could have been cut with a plasma blade. Thakmor watched as the implications slowly dawned on the assembled rulers of galactic civilization. You are suggesting, said Chancellor Vecthrone slowly, that this Captain Torres allowed herself to be captured specifically to install a virus in our networks? Not just allowed, Supreme Chancellor. Orchestrated. The destruction of her vessel, the death of her crew, her own capture, all of it was carefully planned to appear authentic while ensuring she survived to complete her mission. Counselor Yethkal, a veteran military strategist, leaned forward in his hover throne. What was the extent of the virus infection? Thakmar's 3 eyes dimmed with exhaustion. Total system compromise across 17 ships. Navigation, weapons, life support, communications. Everything connected to the central network was corrupted. We lost 94% of the fleet. And the human vessels? 15 confirmed ships. Those sensor readings suggest additional units remained cloaked throughout the engagement. Their largest vessel displaced approximately 4 times the mass of our dreadnoughts and carried weapons of unknown design. The council chamber erupted in agitated discussion. Representatives clicked, chirped, and growled in their native languages as they processed the magnitude of the defeat. Thakmor waited patiently for the chaos to subside, knowing the worst revelations were yet to come. Order, Chancellor Vecthrone's voice boomed across the chamber. Commander, continue your report. Supreme Chancellor, intelligence analysis suggests the human preparation extended far beyond the single engagement. We have received fragmentary reports from 17 other sectors indicating coordinated strikes against hegemony installations. The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. Counselor Hex Prime's crystalline structure dimmed to a worried amber, defying coordinated strikes. Simultaneous attacks across multiple star systems, all employing technology previously unknown to human forces. Supply depots destroyed. Communication relays severed. Forward bases eliminated with surgical precision. Thakmor activated a holographic display showing the affected regions. Red markers indicated confirmed attacks, yellow showed suspected human activity, and blue represented remaining hegemony strongholds. The pattern was unmistakable. They have been systematically isolating our forces, he continued, cutting supply lines, disrupting communications, eliminating strategic assets. The attack on our fleet was not an isolated incident. It was part of a comprehensive campaign. Counselor Yethkal studied the tactical display with growing alarm. How long have these attacks been occurring? Based on available data, approximately 6 cycles. However, many incidents were initially attributed to technical malfunctions, pirate raids, or natural phenomena. We believe human forces have been active far longer than we realized. The implications were staggering. For 6 cycles, while the hegemony celebrated their expanding conquest of human space, their enemies had been quietly dismantling the infrastructure that made such expansion possible. What of the prisoner herself? Asked Chancellor Vecthrone. This Captain Torres escaped via teleportation technology derived from our own equipment. Her current whereabouts are unknown, though intelligence suggests she has been promoted to admiral rank within the human fleet structure. Supreme Chancellor Vecthrone's massive claws scraped against his throne's armrests. You are telling this council that we have been outwitted by a species we classified as technologically primitive. Not primitive, Supreme Chancellor. Adaptive. The humans possess an unusual capacity for rapid technological advancement when motivated by survival pressure. They also demonstrate remarkable strategic patience, willing to endure years of apparent defeat in service of ultimate victory. Councillor Zethmar, the youngest member of the council, spoke for the first time during the session. Commander, in your professional assessment, what is the current threat level posed by human forces? Moore considered his response carefully. His next words would shape the hegemony's policy toward humanity for generations to come. Critical, Councillor. The humans have demonstrated superior intelligence gathering, advanced technological adaptation, and strategic planning that exceeds our previous models of their capabilities. More concerning, they appear to view this conflict not as territorial expansion but as total war for species survival. Meaning, they will not negotiate. They will not accept occupation. They will not submit to hegemony authority under any circumstances. They will fight until either they are extinct or we are driven from their space entirely. The chamber fell silent again as the council absorbed this assessment. For 2 centuries, the hegemony had grown accustomed to conquest through overwhelming force followed by pragmatic surrender from defeated species. The humans represented something new and terrifying, an enemy that grew stronger through defeat. Recommendations? Asked Chancellor Vecthrone. Immediate withdrawal from all human-claimed territory. Establishment of a neutral zone between our species. Negotiation of a non-aggression treaty that acknowledges human sovereignty over their current holdings. The response was explosive. Half the council began shouting objections while the other half demanded additional intelligence data. Councillor Hex Prime's crystalline structure flashed angry red. Unacceptable, she declared. The hegemony does not retreat from primitive species. We have conquered 47 star systems over the past 3 cycles. We will not abandon that progress because of a single tactical defeat. Thactomor's mandibles clicked with frustration. Councillor, with respect, this was not a single tactical defeat. This was a comprehensive strategic victory by an enemy who has been planning our destruction for years. They have studied us, learned from us, and now they possess many of our technological advantages while retaining their own innovations, such as enhanced combat reflexes in their soldiers, stealth technology that renders our sensors useless, weapons that penetrate our defensive systems, computer viruses that can corrupt our networks through neural interface connections, and most importantly, a military doctrine based on patience, adaptation, and total commitment to victory. Councillor Yeth Cole examined the tactical display more closely. Commander, what evidence do we have that these attacks were coordinated from a central command structure? Timing precision suggests unified control. All simultaneous strikes occurred within a 4-hour window across 17 star systems. This level of coordination requires extensive communication networks and strategic planning capabilities. Then they must have a central command facility, a headquarters that coordinates these operations. Moore's 3 eyes focused on the veteran strategist. Councillor, our intelligence suggests their command structure is distributed across multiple mobile platforms. The large vessel that engaged our fleet, the UES Patience, appears to be one of several such command ships. Then we destroy them all, declared Councillor Hex Prime. We mobilize the full hegemony fleet and crush these humans before they can cause further damage. With what forces? The Comor asked quietly. Our frontline battle groups have been systematically destroyed or isolated. Our supply lines have been severed. Our communication networks have been compromised. And we still do not understand the full extent of human military capabilities. Chancellor Vecthrone's massive form shifted on his throne. Commander, are you suggesting the hegemony is incapable of defeating a single primitive species? I am suggesting, Supreme Chancellor, that this species is no longer primitive. They have become something far more dangerous. They have become us, but with the motivation of a cornered predator fighting for survival. The holographic display updated with new intelligence data transmitted from the outer sectors. Additional red markers appeared on the map indicating fresh human attacks. The pattern was expanding, growing bolder, moving closer to core hegemony territory. "By the void," whispered Councillor Zethmar. "They are not simply defending their space. They are launching offensive operations against our infrastructure." Thakmor nodded grimly. "The humans have transitioned from defensive to offensive posture. Intelligence suggests they are preparing for a major push into hegemony territory within the next cycle." "Impossible." Councillor Hex Prime's crystalline structure blazed with indignation. "No species has ever successfully invaded hegemony space. Our defensive networks are impregnable. Our defensive networks rely on technology the humans have now studied and adapted to their own purposes," Thakmor replied. "They know our strengths because they have experienced them firsthand. More importantly, they know our weaknesses because they have been forced to find ways around our advantages." The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. The hegemony faced an enemy that had turned their own strengths against them. Every tactical victory over human forces had provided the humans with additional intelligence. Every captured ship had yielded technological secrets. Every conquered colony had demonstrated hegemony's strategic doctrine. "What do they want?" asked Chancellor Victhrone. "Justice," Thakmor said simply. "Revenge for their conquered colonies, retribution for their dead civilians, and guarantee that the hegemony will never again threaten human space. And if we refuse to withdraw..." Thakmor activated another section of the holographic display. This one showed energy signatures detected at the edge of explored space, massive gravitational disturbances that suggested fleet movements on an unprecedented scale. "Then they will bring the war to us. Long-range sensors have detected what appears to be a major human fleet massing beyond the outer rim. Conservative estimates suggest 200 vessels, including multiple ships of the same class as the UES Patience." The council chamber erupted in chaos once again. 200 human warships, each potentially carrying weapons capable of penetrating hegemony defenses, represented a threat unlike anything the Galactic government had ever faced. "How is that possible?" demanded Councillor Yethkal. "Human industrial capacity cannot support fleet construction on that scale. Not using traditional human industrial capacity," Thakmor agreed, "but using captured hegemony manufacturing facilities, reverse-engineered technology, and 3 years of preparation time, it becomes not only possible but inevitable." Chancellor Vecthrone rose from his throne, his massive form dominating the chamber. "This council will recess for deliberation. Commander Thakmor, you will remain available for additional questioning." As the council members filed out through various exits, Thakmor remained standing on the assembly floor. Around him, the holographic display continued updating with new intelligence reports. Each red marker represented another human victory, another step closer to the hegemony homeworlds. Subcommander Grix Tal approached from the observer gallery, his young carapace now bearing the scars of their escape from the human ambush. "Commander, do you truly believe we cannot defeat these humans?" Thakmor considered the question carefully. In the distance, alarms began sounding as fresh reports arrived from the outer sectors. More red markers appeared on the holographic map. "The humans have taught us a valuable lesson about patience, Subcommander. They waited 3 years for the perfect moment to strike. They endured defeat after defeat to position themselves for ultimate victory. They sacrificed thousands of their own people to protect millions more. And we have been fighting the war they wanted us to fight, using the tactics they expected us to use, at the time and place of their choosing. They have been patient. They have been methodical. They have been absolutely ruthless in their pursuit of victory." Grix Tal's mandibles clicked nervously. "What happens now?" Thakmor looked up at the holographic display one final time. The red markers now outnumbered the blue ones. Human forces were advancing on multiple fronts, their coordination perfect, their intelligence superior, their motivation absolute. "Now," he said quietly, "we learn what it feels like to be hunted by a species that values patience above all other virtues." In the depths of space beyond the galactic rim, Admiral Maya Torres stood on the bridge of the U.S. Retribution, watching the final preparations for the largest human military operation in history. Around her 237 warships prepared to advance into hegemony territory. The time for patience was over. The time for fire had come. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The hunt was entering its final phase, and humanity intended to finish what the aliens had started 3 years ago when they made the mistake of underestimating human patience. The predators had become the prey, and the prey had learned to hunt with surgical precision. The hegemony's reign of conquest was about to end, one carefully planned strike at a time, executed with the methodical patience that had always been humanity's greatest strength. And in the silence between stars, the echo of Captain Torres's words from that extraction chamber continued to resonate. Patience was not weakness. Patience was preparation. Patience was victory.